With water mixable sometimes, because I used to paint with the terp and everything, and with oil paint you use that Gamsol mineral spirit. So in what I like to use is this quick dry medium, and I find it works really well. It helps the paint dry a little quicker. I mean, that's what it says it's supposed to do. So, but it always is surprising nowadays when things actually work out the way they're supposed to. So yeah, so I'll put a little layer of that on my canvas. It gets kind of messy, the lid. You know how these lids get kind of a little bit, there's sort of like a buildup of the stuff that got all over my canvas there. So I just put a little layer of that. I could probably put out some more. I probably will just, in case I need some more, I'll use these little mason jar lids that I have, that I put my paintbrushes in, or water. I just keep the lids for little jobs like this. So I'll put some in there and just get a little layer of that. So now, also this surface I'm using is the ampersand gesso board, and I really find those great for using with water mixable oil because they're so smooth. So you just got to kind of find the right mix of everything. So I'm going to start with kind of mapping out where the rose is going to go and everything. So I'm just going to do a little, first of all, a little brush out a little bit of this ultramarine blue and burnt sienna here. And I'm just going to put a little layer of that. You can see how nice and smooth that goes down. I'm going to leave where I kind of imagine the rose is basically going to go. And my dog, her name is Rose, so every time I talk about the rose, she's kind of like wondering what I'm doing. All right, when you get a bit of that down, then you want to use, I have these Viva paper towels, and they're smooth, so they kind of wipe away a nice smooth, you know, they just leave nicer marks than, say, your regular paper towel. You can also go and people tell me that the paper towels in the automotive section, those blue ones that people use to dust their car or whatever, those ones are also smooth, and some people say they're cheaper, which is kind of weird why they're cheaper. Who knows? Okay, so now I've got a nice kind of neutral background. I've kind of left the area where I'm guessing I'm going to put the rose. And now I can look at my reference and sort of, I could use a bit of that color. And I'm just going to kind of mark out an imaginary kind of table kind of line. I've got it on a little piece of paper towel. And you can kind of map out just something as to where, you know, some of those leaves are going to go. Just really, at this point, I'm just trying to wake up my artistic side of my brain. It helps to kind of doodle in a little bit. And, you know, just while I was doing that, I realized that petal that's there is actually one I really like. So I want to make sure that I'm not cutting that short. And so if someone were to buy your art and, you know, get it framed, I don't want that petal. I don't mind something else, but I really like that petal that's in the reference photo. So I'll keep that. Okay, so now what you can do is, if if you want to keep your colors really clean, these are all transparent so far, so I don't really have to worry. But what you can do, and it's kind of a nice thing to do anyways, is you can go ahead and kind of do a little bit of a wipe away for kind of where the rose is going to go. So I'm just using this paper towel and wiping away there. And I can kind of go back and just kind of sketch a little bit more where I'm going to put that rose. Okay, I don't want to start fussing with all the drawing. What I just really wanted to do is pay attention to stuff that I thought was really pretty. Like I love the contrast of the greens with that pink. So I just wanted to make sure that I had room to really show that off in my composition, because I really think that's gonna be nice. It's gonna be great. Okay, so all right, so there you go. There you kind of mark out where everything's going. And now I'm going to start off and get that center in there. And a color that I've been using, I normally use alizarin, but I've been using this Madder Lake by Cobra, and it's really nice. And it's got a little bit more depth to it. So I'm going to start off with that. You can see already just how warm that color is. It's just beautiful. So I've been kind of adding that to my palette. And so I'm starting off with that Madder Lake. Some of the names of these things, I should do a video on how they get their names. Okay, so but don't go overboard with that, because you know then the next thing you know you got too much dark. And then I just bought a tube of, I used to always use permanent rose from Winsor Newton, and I didn't know they had a water-mixable version, so I'm gonna put down some of that permanent rose, because permanent rose and white make the most beautiful pink. So I'm just going to keep blocking in here. The nice thing about using a little layer of the quick dry medium is it really, your painting, if you give it a try, your paintings dry nice and shiny, like as if you've already varnished them. It's kind of nice. I see a few petals in there that have a little bit of green. Oh, and another green that I've got out here is for roses is really good, is this transparent yellow green by Cobra water-mixable oil. That's also a really good one, because you'll notice some of the petals that are back here will have a little bit of green. I'm just going to dab a little bit, because it's transparent, in there right now, because those petals are going to have some really pretty kind of greens in them. So, but we'll keep these ones nice and happy and bright. The other thing I'm going to do is just block in now some of that sap green for those leaves, the rose leaves that are back there. It actually comes down. If you look at things, like always look at the angles things are on. Sometimes your mind will try to straighten things that are not and even things out when you shouldn't. So always look at the angles when you're painting of the way things are actually, actually going. Okay, I'm not going to get into the details. I always get into the details too much. Okay, so now when you paint a rose like this that has a lot of little pink highlights and it's got some really beautiful, light and then the pink tips, you can take the Viva paper towel, and this is kind of one of the pluses of using oil paint is you can kind of go in now, and I'm going to look at some of the highlights and just kind of pick off some of that. You can see how pretty that is when you lift up some of the paint off of it. So just kind of lift off the paint. Notice I'm kind of leaving the darker edge. So what happens when you lift off a little bit, you'll start to absorb it. So just make sure to get a clean paper towel again and kind of go around and again, you can start getting overly fussy with the exact petals. When I paint roses, I'm not one of those exact types. So I just try my best to pick up on the ones that I really like, and feel like if you get 50% of how beautiful a rose is down on your painting, then you're doing pretty good. So I'm trying to aim for getting at least a few things that I really love about this rose. So now you can see how pretty that is. When I wipe away where I put the green there, I'm seeing some of that in the pink. So it's already kind of showing up. Another thing about wiping away some of the lighter petals in the beginning like this is sometimes people struggle with getting the highlight really bright. So when you do this, you're kind of cleaning the surface off a little so that you can go and add a brighter highlight to it, or you can just sort of, sometimes it's brighter just to leave the wipe away and just go for it that way. You can even do that to some of your green. You can wipe away some lighter spots there. Okay, before I wipe away everything, I'll go back to using my brush, and I'm gonna go and just start looking at, there's some real rich, dark pinks in there, and then there's some pale, kind of warmer pinks. So just kind of using some of this Winsor Newton permanent rose and some white, you can go and start adding, some of that. I might even add a little bit of this yellow ochre to make a little warmer puddle of paint here. Kind of get that nice yellow in there. And I want to show that little, add some yellow to that one. And I'm just using the edge of this brush and going up. This is just from Blick Art, this paintbrush here. Just looking at the reference and kind of, putting in some of those. I also have out some quinacridone red, which will get you some of those maybe darker pinks in there. If you add a little white to them, you'll get some of those darker pink edges too that way. And I'm trying to keep those brush strokes nice and loose. This is Pyrrole red, and that also makes pretty pink too, so I put that out too. I'm just looking at the reference photo and just kind of putting in where those little edges kind of go. And these ones are kind of laying flat because the rose is lying on the table there. So I'm just going to put those marks on there and then start to get a feel for what needs to get lighter and what needs to get darker as you go. And this kind of comes up a little higher there. Okay, so now that I've got like a little base for where everything's going, you can put in a few of those little marks. And I've been mainly adding, light to the rose. And so you can kind of switch to going back after you do that to working on kind of revisiting some of the darks for a bit. So first of all, what I like to do at this point is you can take a light, I've got this mop brush, or you can take a fan, or if you don't have any of those things, don't worry, you can take your Viva paper towel. If you rip it, you see all these little feathery marks. Just take your towel and look at that. You make the most beautiful brush strokes you've probably ever made. I always like it the best when I mess it up a little with the paper towel. Look at that. We're halfway there. So you can also just use, this mop brush is very good because it's so soft, but the bristles are so, messy. You can really soften that up too, like that. Painting a rose is kind of like a puzzle, you kind of start and then you sort of see little pieces that you need to put together, you know what I mean? So this is some cad yellow deep, which it looks orange, but it's actually cad yellow deep. And I added some of that quinacridone to it, and I'm just going to put in it's kind of a transparent layer, so I'm just putting in some of that just to kind of get in that shadow. Just turn my studio light kind of decided to go, so maybe that'll help. There. Okay, so I'm going to add now a little bit of that as I go too. I'll put in a little more of that madder lake back in there, just to get some of the shadow color back. Yeah, especially in the center there where it's really dark. Gotta go back in there and just kind of look around and squint down when you look at your reference photo so you can really see where it gets really dark. just kind of looking around at the shadows and putting some in there, and just using the same kind of colors, different variations to get the effect. Okay, so, and then I'm just gonna go and make sure I put all those darks that I see in there. Okay, and I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to mix up a few colors for the background. Also, I've got out some of this purple that I had out before, and that is this color here, this permanent blue violet. So I really love that. Put a little in the shadows. You can put a little bit of that, and so put it using the palette knife. You can put that down. Some of those areas, and then for the background, I'm going to use a bit of cobalt and white, and I'll add some of that burnt sienna to gray it down, and even anything to gray it down. You know, you're just kind of mixing up a gray, bluey gray color. So you can, if you add green and you add some red and some blue and white, you'll end up with this gray color. Burnt sienna, cobalt, and white, guaranteed to get you this sort of, and then you can make it, you know, variations of it by adding different colors, but you'll get that nice gray. So I'm just going to put a bit of that gray in there to get that rose to really, you know, settle down on that table there. And I want to get the background in, so it's another, you know, value adjustment, because it's going to, you know, darken around that pink rose so that you can, you know, you can then see the pink more, and you can put on some more pink highlights, because now you have something to, you know, give it that contrast. You can put, you know, light pink all day on a light canvas, and it's just not going to pop as much as if you give it a contrast, you know. So just get some of that to run the shadow color kind of along the table, and put a little dab of that there and there, and then I'm gonna add some white to that and get a little lighter mix there, and a little, you can warm it up with some, I'm gonna add some of that raw sienna, and just sort of just for a second, I'm gonna use a brush to just sort of combine those strokes. Notice I'm not overly combining them. I'm trying to keep that looseness there. I like the you know, the underpainting shows a bit. And then use a little bit of the cad yellow medium and mix it into the white, and you can get some of that lighter color that we got for the tablecloth there. Okay, so now I'm just gonna add I can go back and add some of those nice highlights to the rose. Now that I've got the background, I'm just gonna go and really pop some of those brighter petals down there. Just using the same mix. And just different values for different, you know, parts of the rose, but and then you can go and mix some of that more shadow pink back in, but I'm really kind of loosening it up now. As you can see, the palette knife helps a lot for that, because you just can't worry about it being perfect. And I'll get some of that darker mix for the petal that's kind of coming down. And I'm putting a bit of that pink edge back on there, but just because and then there's a lot of lighter, kind of more warmer pinky kind of whites in there, so I'm added a little bit of yellow to that. Now with my background to kind of, so it doesn't look like it's so disconnected, I'm gonna just add a bit of that pink to the gray and maybe a little cad yellow medium there to kind of warm it up. And I'm just gonna bring that into the background a little, just so it's not so icy. And now I'm going to get a little bit of sap and some of this cad yellow, I think it's cad yellow light. Mixed a little bit of the background color into it, and I'm going to go and put a nice mark for some of these petals. And there's a few of those real, skinny, straggly ones. I'm just going to use some of this bright green that I had out. Put some of that on the edges. And I'm going to scratch away at some of this because I have that light pink will show up really nice. And I should buy some of those actual tools that you can do this with, but I'm just using another kind of layer of looseness here. And so let me just get another little blob of this white with a little bit of yellow just to really kind of and I might not have added that much yellow, but it just sort of warms it up a little. Okay, well, before I go and overwork it, I think I'm gonna probably stop painting this thing for now because I kind of like it. It turned out kind of loose and lively like I hoped. So we started off with some brushes and then we ended with this palette knife. And I hope you really enjoyed this little lesson. And I look forward to painting more roses with you soon because I really enjoy them, and I think probably you do too. Leave me a comment if you do, and then I know I'm onto something with this. And if there's any other flowers you'd like to paint, just let me know as well in the comments. So anyhow, well, thanks so much for watching and supporting my channel. I appreciate it so much. I enjoy making these videos, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Thanks for watching.